Hi there, I'm going to walk you through creating the Password Alert App Engine application. This will involve getting the code for the backend service from GitHub, creating a Google App Engine instance to serve the application, editing the Password Alert configuration files for your App Engine instance, adding the new service to your Google Apps domain, and deploying the application. The Password Alert server allows admins to audit password alerts, send notifications to end users and admins, and force password resets. So let's get the code. Head over to github.com/google/passwordalert and either clone the repository or download the Password Alert application files. We'll just download them for now. Once the files are on your machine, unzip the files to a folder. We'll need these later when you're ready to add the files to our App Engine instance. Speaking of which, let's go to console.developers.google.com and log in with your Google admin account. We're going to click Create Project to set up a new App Engine instance. Add a project name and project ID into the dialog box. The project name can be anything you like, such as Google Apps Password Alert. The project ID is a unique name that identifies your App Engine application. It has to be unique. Make it something like Password Alert - your primary domain name. And it helps to make this something memorable, since we'll use this later when we edit the configuration files. Once the project is created successfully, you'll be redirected to the App Engine dashboard. On the dashboard page, under API and Auths, select Consent Screen. In the product name field, enter a product name and click Save. This name can be anything, and no one will actually see it, but it's a requirement for the application, so feel free to be creative. We're going to call it Password Alert - Solimora. Now select Compute, App Engine, Settings. Under Google Authentication, click the drop-down box to select Google Apps Domain. Type your primary domain in the text box below, and click Save. Now under APIs and Auth, select API. Type Admin SDK into the search dialog box so we can enable the API we'll need for the service. Click Admin SDK and select Enable API. The next step is to click Credentials, where we'll create the client ID that'll be used by your App Engine application. Click Create New Client ID. Select Service Account for the application type and select P12 key for the key type. Click Create Client ID. A P12 certificate for the service account will be downloaded to your computer. Keep track of where the P12 private key certificate is downloaded. You'll need this later in your configuration steps. Also, keep track of the client ID and email address for the service account, as you'll need these in the configuration steps as well. Now we need to open and edit the app.yaml configuration file in the server folder using your favorite text editor. Change the application field to your app ID, and then save the file. Next, we'll work on the configuration file for Password Alert Server. Open the config.python file in the server folder. Define the domain auth secret field with a random value. In this example, I'll use Big Giants Fan. This is the domain auth secret for the Password Alert extension to authenticate with the server when reporting alerts. Configuring this field removes the requirement for end users to sign into Chrome. Next, let's define the Password Alert email field. Enter the SMTP address of a distribution group where you want to receive password alerts. This is generally your security team who would monitor these reports. I've entered the security group of the demo domain. Next, define the email sender. This is the from address for the email notifications. Enter a single email address here. The sender needs to be an admin of your App Engine application. I've entered the email sender for my demo domain as security@solimora.com. Next, enter the App Engine application URL. This is the public URL of your App Engine application. The URL is based off of your app ID plus appspot.com. Next, define if you want to turn on enforcement. Turning on enforcement will take direct actions on users. It'll expire the user's password and send an email to the user and the administration group. Set this value to true if you'd like to enable enforcement. It's set to false by default. Next, enter the administrator email account address that has access to the admin SDK. The service account will use this user to access the admin SDK. Next, enter the email address of your service account. This should end with developers.gserveraccount.com. Leave the private key file name to default, as we'll reformat and rename the P12 certificate key we downloaded earlier. Next, define the admin Google group that you would like to have access the Password Alert admin interface. This would typically be your security group that monitors the logs. If you have only users in your primary domain, you can save and exit the file. If you have multiple domains, you'll need to define your domain names as a multi-domain configuration. The domain names we need will be added here, each one separated by a comma. So, remember the P12 certificate we downloaded earlier? We'll need to edit it to change the format of the key from PKCS to PEM, and then we'll remove some attributes from the PEM file we won't need. To start, open your browser to openssl.com and download the package for your operating system. In this demo, I've downloaded the OpenSSL precompiled library for Windows. Move the P12 certificate to the SSL folder and rename the file to a friendly name like pwa.p12. Double-click on the executable and type the following command into the command prompt. When you're done, and it looks like this, hit enter. The password is not a secret, all one word and lowercase. Open up the private key.pem file with your favorite text editor. All we need to do is delete the bag and key attributes, and then save the file. Now that we've edited the PEM file, we can move it to the alert server folder. Now that we have everything set up and configured for our server, we're ready to connect our admin account to our App Engine instance. Sign into admin.google.com and add your App Engine instance to your domain. This will restrict your application so that only members in your domain can authenticate with your App Engine application. Select App Engine Apps and click the Add sign in the upper right-hand corner. Enter your app ID into the field and click Add it now. If you've forgotten your app ID, you can view it at console.developers.google.com. Read the agreement, accept, and click Activate this service. Next, we'll delegate domain-wide authority to your service account in the admin panel. Click the navigation button in the admin page, then click Security, Show More, Advanced Settings, then Manage API Client Access. In the client name field, enter the client ID you created earlier. This should end with apps.googleusercontent.com. In the one or more API scopes, enter the following API scopes. You'll find these in the deployment documentation. The scope should be separated by a comma, and click Authorize. If added successfully, you should see the permissions highlighted in bold next to each of the URL scopes. Ensure that API access is enabled for the domain. Click on Security, API Reference, and under API Access, ensure that Enabled API Access is checked. Now we'll download the App Engine SDK to upload the password alert server files to your App Engine instance. In this demo, we'll use the Windows version. Go to cloud.google.com/appengine/downloads and select Google App Engine SDK for Python. Select the Windows package or the package that suits your operating system, and double-click the MSI downloaded package. Click through the App Engine install, and when it's complete, double-click the App Engine Launcher shortcut. Select File, then Add Existing Application. Click Browse, and navigate to the Server folder for Password Alert. Click OK and Add. Now you should see the app ID listed in the console. So we're almost done. All we need to do is select the app ID project and click the Deploy button in the upper right-hand corner to upload the server files to our App Engine instance. Your default browser will launch, prompting you to log in. Use the admin credentials you used to create the App Engine instance. You'll be prompted to authorize the App Engine uploader to access your App Engine instance. Click Accept. When you click Accept, you'll see a message in the browser saying the authentication flow has completed. This means we've successfully authorized the App Engine uploader to connect to your App Engine application. So now you can close this browser tab. In the Google App Engine Launcher console, you'll see a message saying Deployment Successful. Congrats, you've completed the application upload. So now head on to part 2 where we'll configure the extension and policies.